What's up, Gearholics? This is Zach here, and I'm coming to you guys with another review. Today I'll be going over the Light My Fire Swedish Firesteel 2.0, or that's what they call this. Is the second generation Firesteels that are produced by Light My Fire. The company is a really good company. They have a lot of stuff out there on the market, really great spoons and other items that they sell that are used by many outdoor enthusiasts. Highly recommended by me and highly recommended by, I'm sure, a lot of other people. If you've ever owned any of their equipment, you know that it really works, or you've had a good time with it, or at least I haven't heard anybody complain at all about their products, and I've never had any problems with any of their products. And I have a few of their other products that I may do reviews on, just depending on how popular or how many people really want to hear about it. But for now, I'm going to be sticking to their Firesteel line of their versions of fire starting steels or ferrocerium rods, as more commonly known as ferrocerium rods. Ferrocerium rods are mostly composed of iron, cerium, and lanthanum, and then a percentage of magnesium, and that helps them. Basically, it just creates the foundation structures behind the actual rod itself, and helps it strike and helps it cause friction and different things, and helps it burn for longer periods of time. The basic foundations of how these actually work is when you actually strike the actual rod itself, you're generating from that scraping action uh, uh, friction, and from that friction you're igniting the shavings that come off of that actual strike, um, using the friction. You're igniting them at it takes around 300 and 350 degrees, or 150 to 180 degrees Celsius of friction to actually ignite the small shavings that come off the actual fire steel. And then once they're actually cast off, usually they burn at around 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit or 2,980 degrees Celsius. And that's the Celsius is obviously there for you guys who are not in the United States. And basically, it burns at a high temperature, and so it really does ignite anything that you put you aerate, and that burns for a decently long amount of time. I generally like to use cotton balls. I generally like to use cotton balls when I'm doing this kind of method of fire starting, just because these are a lot easier to use, and they're compact and they're lightweight, and so you don't have too many problems with cotton balls. There are other methods that you can use. There are other methods that you can use to ignite materials, and wet fire, which is sold by Ultimate Survival Technologies. This stuff is really good. It works really well. I've had a lot of luck with it. There are also other brands who make similar style fire starting materials, and this particular brand I've had a lot of success with. The only thing about these is they can be quite expensive, and I don't have actual prices or anything on the specific starter or the specific fuel. But I know that these are decently priced. That they're not going to run you into the ground. But for the ease of access, I'm going to use a cotton ball over these. I generally use these if it's really wet and or if I'm really having a hard time starting fire. And these are really awesome. I would highly recommend looking into these if you're interested and you want to buy something that you know is going to be test proven. These are pretty awesome. But I generally go for the cotton ball just because it's a lot easier and lightweight. And then there are other things that you can actually burn. If you get a decent flame going, you can throw on some of this rubber inner tubing. A lot of people use it, or they call it Ranger bands. This is really useful because it burns for a long time. I wouldn't recommend this because when you burn this, you're burning rubber, and burning rubber is just like burning a tire, and all those toxins go into the air and the air around you, and you could bring them in. You could breathe them in and breathe in harmful toxins. So I wouldn't really recommend these as your primary fire starting, but they're always a good option to have if you really need to have something for a long duration to light. These are very useful, and I do take a lot of these out with me, and I generally use them to strap things down. But that's just one other option you can use for fire lighting. But like I said before, it is dangerous to breathe in the chemicals and different things that come off of this. So I would highly recommend that you're just aware of that and that you know what you're doing when you light it. And don't stand over it when you light it because it burns and it's really nasty and smells bad. And then another option that you can do is jute twine. I have used jute twine in the past. Jute twine is just a natural, it's a natural material that they've braided together into obviously like twine. It's more of like a twine. I wouldn't say that it could take heavy loads, but it is very useful. It can't hold. It can't. I wouldn't use it by itself. It doesn't have. It has a very low breaking strength. Maybe like 50 pounds, 60 pounds. I'm not going to test it, but I do generally use this to strap things on. It does hold things on really, really well, especially if you're wrapping it together. But the second kind of thing that I use it for is usually if I tie it on. What's great is I'll cut a small section of this actual material, and then it's made out of fibers, individual fibers that are easily spread apart, and you can rip those apart and really cause a lot of aeration. And they take a flame relatively well, and it handles weather really, really well. So I've had a lot of luck with these, and that's just my opinion. And that's jute twine, and you can find these at You can find a whole roll of this at Walmart for right around the $5 range. So highly recommended from my perspective and from my usage. I generally like to start fires obviously with cotton balls, and I won't go over the theories behind my cotton ball usage, but these are just a lot easier, and they're lightweight, and I can take a lot of them, and they're very dependable. So there are other videos out there of people using cotton balls, and you can go watch those if you're really interested. Let's see. So let's kind of actually get on to the actual review. So these are obviously made by Light My Fire, and they're Swedish Firesteel. I've been using this particular model for around the 3 or 4 year mark. It is very used, and I have not used all of it. You can see that it has a lot of wear and tear on it, and I've struck it a lot of different times using a lot of different methods and for a lot of different things. Not just starting fires, but also lighting. If you have a kitchen stove that runs off of gas and you need to get it started and the starter won't work, you can use this. Just be really careful because you don't want to blow yourself up. But I've used this to start, for different other items that need to be started. Gas stoves, obviously, and then fire, and then I think that's it. That's all I can think of right now. I'm sure there are other uses for this, but I have found that this is the most useful tool, and I have used it a lot, or at least in my experiences being outdoors. I've used this particular model a lot, and I really do enjoy it. And I got this as a Christmas gift. I think I said around 3 or 4 years ago, and I can't remember how long I've had it for. I just know it's been a long time. And the model is actually the 2.0, it's the upgraded version, and so it's an upgrade above their first model that they had out. And I don't think they sell the first models anymore because these are a lot better. It feels really good in the hand. It does have a thumb groove on the actual the actual main body of where the actual ferrocerium rod sticks out. And I really do like the actual striker itself. It is very well grooved, and that really feels really good in the hands too. And the combination of the two when striking, it feels really easy to strike. And I've had a lot of luck with this particular ferrocerium rod style. There are other companies who make other types of ferrocerium that either strike not as good or better, just depending on your experiences. I've had a lot of experience with this particular model, and I've had a lot of luck striking fires. I have had other strikers in the past that really, really, really sucked, and I think that has to do with their chemical composition. Of their compositions, of what they're made out of. And I'm not sure what the magical composition that Light My Fire uses, but I know that whatever they're using is great, and I don't think they should change anything about it. It is in my mind the perfect fire striking ferrocerium rod out there on the market, and I want to say that these run in the $9 to $10 range. I could be wrong on these Scout models, and then the Army model runs a little bit more expensive, maybe in the $15 range. For what you're spending, $10 or whatever on these knives. I've been doing too many knife reviews. What you're spending on these actual models, on these ferrocerium rods, I think it's a great deal, and I really do feel like you're getting a lot for your money. And for the longevity that you're going to have this thing, it's going to last you. It can last you many years if you take care of it, and especially if you use it sparingly or use it when you absolutely need to. You can have this thing for years and years and years and never have to buy another one. So that $10 that you're actually spending, or $9 or $12 that you're spending on it, I'm not sure what the actual prices are. I think I paid like $10 for this, like total, um, or $10 for the newer model that I have here. You're getting a lot for your money, and I really do feel like these are worth the buy, and they're really worth the actual magic of having that capability. When I use these, I'm using these as my primary system. I do take backups such as matches and a nice Bic lighter uh, with me just as a secondary precaution or third precaution. And I usually have backup systems on me for lighting fire because it's stupid to go out there with just the Ferrocerium rod. I know a lot of guys that do that, and if you feel competent enough that you can start fires this way, great. That's fine. I feel as if I am very capable of starting a fire with Ferrocerium rods, but I still, as a secondary precaution, carry backup systems just in case something happens and I lose this, or just in case this fails and it breaks or something happens, to it. I have a backup system on me, so it's just smart to carry a secondary system, and but others may differ, and that is just my opinion, and that's my observation. Um, let's see. I really do like the actual model, the Scout model. There are two different models that you can buy. There's the Scout model, and then there's the Army model. And the Army model obviously has more material, and it's a little bit larger and longer. The actual company, Light My Fire, is or has in the past been used by their actual government, by the Swedish government, and I think the Swedish military actually uses these uh, in their. I think they issue these, or maybe they have them in the military, or they use these quite frequently in their military. So they are military, essentially military grade of fire starting ferrocerium rods. And which is kind of nice because if it's military test proven, then generally governments wouldn't invest a lot of money and time in things that don't work, or do they? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. That was kind of a joke, but knowing that it has a military application is kind of a good thing, because you know that anything that gets applied to militaries is generally proven things. There have been things in the past, or times in the past, where stuff was made for the military that didn't work, but these do really work. It doesn't really matter if the Swedish military, uses these or not anymore. What matters is the fact that they've been tested and they're proven. And I know that they're tested because I've used them. And I generally do really enjoy these ferrocerium rods. And obviously, what I was talking about, there are two different models. This is the older one. Obviously, I've used this one a lot, and it's seen a lot of love. I did buy a newer one, a newer Scout model, or a 2.0, and I really do like this one. I haven't used it all that much yet because I still want to use up the rest of the material on this older one that I have before I go on to use this one. And I don't really use the Army one because it's a lot bigger and a lot heavier. I'll kind of explain one thing real quick. Both of these obviously have different strikes. This one, or different striking, how many amounts of strikes you can get out of each. This one is 3,000 strikes. So you can get essentially 3,000 individual strikes out of this one particular rod, whereas the Army model actually does 12,000 strikes, and that's quite a bit. The only thing about these two, and I'll tell you the reason why I like the Scout model over the Army, is when it comes down to weight and you're doing backpacking, every ounce counts, and the ounces or grams between these two really do matter the most for me. Particularly, the Scout model only weighs 27 grams or zero point 0.9 ounces, and that's really lightweight. I mean, for a ferrocerium rod, I mean, obviously it doesn't look like it's much, but when it's your dependable, for such a little thing, your life is depending so much on it. So you really do want to make sure that if you're going to be taking this model or this particular size out, that it is what you want and it's going to be how you use it that makes a difference. I've found that this model works for me, and that may change in opinion for other people. The actual Army model, you can get 12,000 strikes out of it, and it weighs 50 grams, and it's 1.7 ounces. So it's got a hefty weight on it, and it's almost 2 ounces. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, 2 ounces versus almost an ounce. Which one are you going to get? Which one are you going to use? Which one fits your application purpose more? That's really the question you need to ask yourself on these two different Firesteels. Both of them are excellent, and both of them work very, very, very well. And both of them have the same material on them, so doesn't really matter in the long run what you get. I would highly recommend getting either one of these. They do both come with different strikers. This one comes with an all-metal tab on the Army model. It comes with an all-metal tab, and it does generally well at striking. I have done test strikes on this model, but the reason why I'm saving this model is for EDC. I'm sorry, not EDC rolls. I'm keeping it for my survival kit just in case just in case something happens and I can only grab so many things. I'm gonna grab this bad boy because I know I could sustain a longer amount of time with strikes. If I had to have an emergency, or if I was trapped in a situation where I had a limited amount of fuel in my striker or in my lighter or something, I would go to this thing because I know that it would do the job that I needed to do, and it could do it many, many, many times. This is like the oh shit things just hit the fan, kind of Ferrocerium rod, or at least that's what I believe this would fit into. This is more of like the everyday, like if you had to go out and you're doing like a backpacking trip, and you need to keep the weight down, and you could only take so much with you. I highly recommend this model. It works for me, and it really does feel good. The two models are obviously different. This may be one of the older models because I got this one a couple of months after I got this one. So these two were bought around the same time period, whereas this is obviously the newer one. The way in which they actually contoured the handles on the actual Firesteel is really, really nice. It fits really well in my hand, and obviously it fits my thumb really, really well in that nice thumb groove. And the actual striker itself also has a thumb groove, but not only that, but it also has a whistle that comes with it, which is really, really awesome. And honestly, I can't say enough about having a whistle in a survival situation. That you need to have a whistle if you know that you're going out into an area that you may potentially become lost in, or if you have any doubts about being lost. It's great to have a whistle because one, it keeps bears away if you're in a bear environment, and then two, it helps save you when you have to yell. You don't want to be yelling in any kind of extreme situation. You want to be blowing a whistle and making all kinds of noise and other signals. Like you want to signal fire, but you also want to have a whistle so people can see you with the fire and they can also hear you with the whistle. So that's kind of a nice double role kind of thing, and I think they were really thinking when they made these when they made these Ferrocerium rods, and it's like they were thinking specifically of any kind of major catastrophe that could happen to you. If you could only pick one thing up, and if you could only take one item with you, which would be kind of ridiculous. I mean, I would highly recommend that the Scout model is the thing that goes with you, because you have fire and you have rescue all in one thing. Knives and all that other stuff doesn't really matter. Fire is what matters. Fire is what's going to keep you warm. Fire is what's going to get you through the night. Fire is what's going to keep your hopes up, and is going to keep all the bad boogeymen and evil animals away from your campfire, or from you at night. Fire is the only thing that really does matter, and it's what separates us from animals. So, with that being said, I know that was kind of extreme and a little bit in depth, but I really do highly recommend these Ferrocerium rods if you're looking for an alternative way to strike or to start fire. I would highly recommend it. Practice if you're going to get into it. Really learn and understand how to actually use these in a functional way. They are a lot of fun, so if you want to get one and you want to practice and you're just goofing off in the backyard, that's great. I honestly say that's great. Have fun with it, and really understand that there are other methods of lighting fire, and this is one of the better ones, or one of the funner ones that I've found, and it really attunes me better to my environment. It makes me pay attention a little bit more to the materials around me that I can use, and it gives you a whole new insight into what you can actually use in fire situations. And I feel as if going from this to this method of fire lighting changes your perspective on what it's like to live outdoors and what it's like to survive. Especially if you're a survival enthusiast, I would highly recommend understanding how to use these, especially implementing them into your kit, if you're so employed to. I do have a smaller version, and I'm not even sure if this is a smaller version because it has no logos or names or anything on the actual rod itself. I can only assume that it is a small, it's obviously a small Ferrocerium rod, and this is kind of nice. I don't even know where I got this thing, but I would like to see more of these out there. And if anybody knows what brand makes these actual smaller versions, I would really like to know it, because these are really useful, and I would say that these would be a great starter. So if you can find anything of this size and you want to just kind of practice, and these would be relatively inexpensive to own and to have. I think it's the same model. I think it may be made by Light My Fire, because the handles on these two are almost identical, except this one obviously says Light My Fire and this one does not. And I'm not really sure where I got this one, but if anybody knows where you can find these out there, that'd be really great. One last thing before I let y'all go. These Ferrocerium rods, they're to be treated like carbon steel blades. They will rust up and they will fall apart. Obviously, this one that I've been using for a while has pitting and things on the back. And that's on this back part. That's actually from corrosion. So these do corrode, and you need to keep in mind that you need to take care of this just like a carbon steel blade, and put oil on it and really take care of it. If you're really like me and you don't really have the time, and you feel like that's a waste of time to oil up these all the time, you can do the alternative method that I did. And I covered this in nail polish, in a clear nail polish that I borrowed from my girlfriend. And this is the nail polish. I know it's my color, but you can coat these entire things with this clear liquid nail polish, and it works really well against keeping it from corroding. I didn't coat this one, and this is what happened. And I've had this one for about 4 years, and you can see that all the pitting and everything on it is there on the back side, and it's actually relatively deep. You can't really tell on the camera, but it is relatively deep. So that is one thing you need to keep in mind, that these can corrode, but with just a little bit of appliance of this, they'll last for forever. And I will actually coat the rest of these in this liquid nail polish just to keep the preventative of them ever corroding again. And I have run into issues with that where it corroded, but it doesn't change the components of it working and functioning every single time. So that's all I got to say about that. And you guys stay safe out there, and try not to cut yourselves. That's all I got to say for now. And you guys have fun. All right, Gearholic out.